Howdy, howdy, howdy. Welcome back to MCubed. I am Harris, and today we're talking about a little bit of the box office from this past weekend, how January ended, how February has begun so far, because we're jumping into another weekend. Usually I do these things on Thursday, but we didn't get a Tuesday or a Thursday video in this week, so we're doing it all today. And while we're at it, James Gunn and Peter Safran, and I guess David Zaslav and Warner Brothers and the DCU in general all announced the new the new DC slate this week. So let's dive into that right after some box office talk. So I guess let's talk about today. Well, we're in the present. Why not talk about the present? So the box office to begin the best month out of the year. Oh, February, the shortest and the most fun. It's interesting. This is an actual box office. I got it from Exhibitor Relations on Twitter, and I think they have a website. They have a whole bunch of things. But Exhibitor Relations is a fantastic source for box office news and things. The Chosen season 3 finale actually led previews, which is what Thursday is considered in box office terms, with 1.6 million. It was the season 3 finale of The Chosen, and I'm not super familiar with The Chosen. I've had someone try to get me to go see season 1 in theaters, but I'm not the most religious person, and although it's supposed to be really well made and really well done, I'll watch The Passion of the Christ. I'll watch something. I don't know. It just doesn't hit me. It's not something that I am wanting to go to a theater for. I'd rather go see Prince of Egypt back in theaters, re-released, than go see The Chosen season 1 or season 3 finale. But it topped previews yesterday, even beating out Avatar 2, probably just for one day. But it beat out Avatar 2 for a day. It started with 1.6 million, and Avatar 2 yesterday only made 1 million. So let's see how it does for the rest of this weekend. I don't have the highest of expectations for The Chosen, mostly considering that A Knock at the Cabin just came out. We'll get to that one in a little bit. And third top box office for previews yesterday, which I only have the data for the top 3 so far, is BTS, which typically means behind the scenes, yet to come to cinemas. Yet to come to cinemas. I haven't heard of this movie. I don't know anything about this movie. I could Google it right now, but I have a feeling that it's not going to be something. It could be something that would be interesting. Now that I even mentioned it, I kind of have to. BTS. Oh, I already forgot what the hell it was called. Hold up. Oh, it's written right here. BTS, yet to come to cinemas. Yet to come. Is that what it is? Yet to come to cinemas? Yet to come BTS? Oh, it's from BTS. I guess the Korean K-pop band. I'm not much of a K-pop person, if you couldn't tell from that. At least I knew who BTS was. That's the big enough surprise for myself there. But they made $700,000 in previews yesterday. I'm not sure what exactly this movie is, but BTS, the K-pop band, has a new movie out this weekend, apparently. Made $700,000 in one day. It's only third to Avatar 2's 1 million and The Chosen season 3 finale of 1.6 million. So that's how February rolled out. We've got all of this weekend with A Knock at the Cabin. Infinity Pool's out, so I need to go see how much that's making. I still need to go see Infinity Pool. I don't know if I want to go see Fear or not, but I'm going to go see A Knock at the Cabin today at 4, so about 2 hours from now, roughly. And I'm pumped for that. That looks really interesting, and I love me some M. Night Shyamalan. M. Night Shyamalan is great or awful, and sometimes middle. He really is hit or miss typically, but there are those that are kind of like old. His most recent, besides Split and Glass and all these different things, I liked but didn't love. So that one was kind of middling for me. And usually, he's hit or miss. But old was in the middle. I kind of expect this to be in the middle, but hopefully closer to hit. And honestly, Glass was kind of in the middle for me too. It was definitely on the lower side, just because Split and Unbreakable are both phenomenal films. I don't know what happened with Glass. It's pretty prominent what happened to Glass, I guess, but it could have been so good. Anyway, that's February. Let's talk about how January ended on box office, which I'd have to look at the Twitter again, the old Twitter site, but I believe, if I'm remembering off the top of my head, we are up 70% of where we were in 2019. For January box office, which is great to see, great to see. That's after coming out of the whole pandy, all the Rona, all that good stuff for the past couple years. People just haven't been gung-ho to go back to the movie theater, and it is time that they are. And they're finally doing it. So I'm ecstatic. I'm in there all the time. I haven't been as much in the past week. which is wild because this past week, Avatar 2, of course, I believe in its 8th week, is still on top. And it has $15 million added to it. And good old Puss in Boots came in second this past weekend in box office terms, and it made $10 million, which is a great addition. I'm surprised that the film that came out, I don't know if it came out the same week as Avatar. It may have come out a week after. I believe that's the case. It's still got just as much legs as Avatar does. Avatar is making $15 million, and a children's movie is making $10 million 8 weeks after release. Not too shabby, I'd say. Honestly, especially with there's another children's movie that's coming out this weekend, and I'm not entirely positive what it is, but I remember that it's got a decent cast, and I just remember the animated character. I want to say it's like a dog or something like that. Don't quote me. But there is another animated film coming out this weekend, and I haven't seen a single trailer. I haven't seen a single bit of advertisement or anything. So I fully expect Puss in Boots to keep having these legs that they're having. It's got 9 lives, you might say. I'm cheesy. All right. After that, we have A Man Called Otto, was third in the January box office to finish it up with $6.7 million added. That's not shabby. Y'all remember I thought it was going to get I probably thought the whole box office run was going to be 25 million. It's probably made 25, 30 million, which good for them. We need people in seats in movie theaters enjoying themselves. Yes, it's escapism, but it's also a look into the way other people's hearts, souls, and minds work. The movie theater is perfect. It's a wonderful place. It's perfect in its imperfections, is what I should say. So, yeah, no, that makes me happy. I know I'm a little disillusioned with old Tom Hanks at this point, but I'm very happy that it's making $6.7 million this weekend. In what? I believe is third week in wide release and 4th or 5th week in small release. And speaking of things still making money and still on good legs, Megan started out this month great. So I believe this is its 4th, possibly 5th week on a wide release once again, because I know it did release in New York and LA just a little bit earlier. Should have seen it then. Oops. But it brought in $6.3 million this weekend, which is pretty damn good if you got to ask me, especially in a 4th or 5th weekend for a movie that didn't cost all that much to make, made its money back within like a weekend and a half. And it's been profitizing since then. And, there's a Megan 2 coming out, hopefully next year. I'm going to guess 2024 late or early 2025, kind of in the same spot that we got it in this year. But we'll see. And last but not least, we actually have a little bit, I don't know if it's Tollywood or Bollywood. I believe it's Bollywood, but it very well may be Tollywood. Once again, don't quote me on this one. But Pathan made $5.9 million this weekend. And Pathan was actually the first one, not the Chosen Season 3 finale, sorry for the religious folks, but Pathan was the first movie to beat Avatar 2 in a single day in the box office. And I believe that was about 2 weeks ago. And it may have beat it for the whole weekend internationally. I really don't think so, but I believe it. And I know it was at least a day. So pretty cool. Other things are coming in here and dethroning good old Jimmy C. I don't want Jimmy C to be dethroned or anything, of course. But he's about to have Titanic back out in theaters this weekend, or next weekend. He's doing all right. So I'm just excited that we got a whole slew of really good movies out right now, or at least really interesting movies out that all have their own reason to be checked out, all have an interesting reason to be checked out, and they're just all fun, or seemingly fun to check out. There's a lot of, I guess, we have all the Oscar movies out right now, so there are those kind of films that are sullen and sulky, not necessarily sulky, but more, not, and I don't even want to say in your face, but they're in your face in an artsy way, but I never hold a film back for that. I guess there are a lot of Oscar films right now that really want you to feel specific emotions, and God, we just got out of winter. Winter's still kind of going on right now, of course. It's just the beginning of February. Put yourself in a good mood. Also, go see all the Oscar movies. I need to go see a couple, and they're going to be all sad and stuff, so I'll have to bite the bullet there. But hey, it's the wintertime. We're not really trying to bite the actual bullet, not the metaphorical bullet. So keep that mood up and go check these fun movies out. A Man Called Otto seems grumpy and fun. Puss in Boots was so much fun. Megan was so much fun. Pathan, however it's pronounced, looks like a hell of a lot of fun. It's a Bollywood movie. Bollywood and Tollywood both just they're good. They're a really fun time. I love everything they do. I don't watch enough of it. I still need to see RRR. I've had 1,000 people tell me to go see it. I'm gonna go see it soon. I promise. And then there's Avatar 2. Avatar freaking 2. You know, it's Jimmy C, like we were just saying. So if you don't feel like putting yourself in a downer mood, even though there are times for that, and I really do love the movies that kind of put you in those kind of places sometimes. It's winter. Go to the movie theater. Go see the fun stuff. Go enjoy yourself. And if you get the inkling, get the itching to go see one of them Oscar films that kind of makes you think a little more deeply and feel a little more deeply, check it out. They're all worth checking out. Also, howdy Shelly, how you doing? That's kind of it for box office. We got a whole 11 minutes in on box office. Not too shabby. It's pretty simple. I kind of combined a little bit of Tuesday and Thursday together for this one. I'll do it more separate and specify, of course, how this past weekend did, what we think this weekend's going to do in this next week. So we do Tuesday, Thursday streams again. It's been a bit of a hectic week, but we're here and we're talking. We combined a little bit. So let's get into the meat of today, though. James Gunn and Peter Safran, under the directive, of course, of David Zaslav and Warner Brothers, are now the heads of the studio DC, which is now its own studio within and under Warner Brothers, similar to how Marvel is under Disney. But I believe that there is actually one or two less layers of, not resistance, but people that they have to go through, a.k.a. Peter Safran and James Gunn. I almost said Peter Gunn and James Safran. James Gunn and Peter Safran have to go through. I think they directly contact David Zaslav. So they're very high up there. I think Kevin Feige on the Marvel side has a couple kind of points of contacts he has to hit prior to actually talking to big old Bob Iger or somebody like that. Bob Chapek in the last couple of years prior to it being Bob Iger, and post it being Bob Iger, of course. But there's a lot riding on that because obviously Feige built all that stuff on Marvel himself. He had a lot to go on, of course. There's all Marvel comics to build from and build upon, and there's a lot to build from and build upon on DC Comics as well. And I actually grew up liking DC so much more than I did Marvel. I had all the Justice League animated movies. Batman, the Brave and the Bold was my favorite Batman TV show. I love all the old Batman TV shows. Batman Beyond, just probably my second favorite one. But I just love Batman and the Brave and the Bold mostly because Etrigan the Demon was always in there. I love me some good demon stuff with some superheroes. I don't know why. It makes it interesting. Adds a good little conceptual layer onto everything. But some of these are great. Some of them I'm a little iffy on. And some of them I'm optimistic. So let's kind of cover it. I think I have everything in order of how it will be released that we know of so far. And yeah, let's start with, I guess, all the continuation of what we already have. So we know we're going to get a Batman 2 starring Robert Pattinson, directed and written by Matt Reeves, and probably Zoe Saldana, probably Colin Farrell. I don't know. He had so many villains in that first one. Who knows who's going to be in the second one? I would assume Colin Farrell will be there. But that's about it, because he's kind of acting as that gangster in the town at the moment, now that Carmine Falcone is. But I did not like that first movie. I'll be honest. I really did not like the Batman. It was too long. It was overindulgent. It pretended it was intelligent while not being all that intelligent. The rat in the sky, come on. And I love Paul Dano, but people praise Paul Dano's performance as the Riddler. The dude is phenomenal, a phenomenal actor, but that's nothing out of the wheelhouse of what he's done before. People are like, oh my God, that's so cool, that's so interesting. No, it's really not. He's done this role 8 times before, and Matt Reeves was like, let me put him in here. Cool, but Test your actor. Push your actors. We got Heath Ledger's Joker from a Batman movie. Don't you ever come at me trying to call the Batman anything next to Dark Knight. Like, I do enjoy parts of the Batman. I like a lot of the casting in general. I think Paul Dano would have been a really good Riddler if he hadn't been told to just do his normal thing. I don't know. John Turturro's great, but was criminally underutilized, and his role was essentially a joke. I don't know why they included that in the film. They should have just it should have been about Carmine Falcone. That's the best place to start here. If you really want to start in nitty-gritty detective Batman, that's where you start. And I'm not the most comic familiarized person in the world, but I know enough where that felt like, okay, yeah, we're in Gotham. He did a great and excellent job at putting Gotham together. But man, past that, the visuals were cool. Nothing much past that. So I'm a big meh on Batman 2. Well, the thing that really gets me is I don't understand why Robert Pattinson wouldn't work out for the role. Because you can visually see when the stunt double is playing Batman versus when Robert Pattinson's playing Batman. Dude, I don't care if... I understand that Hollywood's not perfect. I understand that filmmaking isn't perfect. I understand the movie-making process isn't perfect, and it's a difficult process. And I understand not wanting to put yourself on some weird pedestal and all these different things, but if you sign up to play Batman, put yourself in a gym. I don't get it. Like, how could sitting alone in your apartment during the whole pandy and everything, sure, you might be moody and broody for Batman, great, but once again, this isn't it's Bruce Wayne, not Kurt Cobain. That also... Okay, this is going to turn into a big rant for me, so I'm going to just go ahead and skip past this. I've spent 2 or 3, 4, 5 minutes on this. Move past. Batman's not my favorite. I'm not excited for Batman 2. I wish it would have just been scrapped. Cool, I like the idea of Elseworlds. Scrap Batman, though. Like, give me the Batman Brave and Bold. That's what I'm looking forward to. But anyway, we will get to that. And next up, I'm going from meh to because he said that The Flash will still be released. And of course, we were expecting The Flash to still be released. He was kind of odd and had to go on Twitter and go back online and tell people what he meant by the things he was saying about Ezra Miller, because it sounded for a second like he was going to, oh yeah, Ezra's really trying hard to get himself back into shape and get himself back into gear, and we'll get him back in those movies. Huh? No. So he clarified that. He said, no, we're probably not going to do that. Kind of left the door open, but shut it for the most part. And I don't think that he's going to rehire Ezra Miller. I don't think anybody's going to rehire Ezra Miller, and I don't think anybody should rehire Ezra Miller. That's a whole topic for a different video. Now, The Flash itself could be really good for this. And I think this is where the soft reboot will come in. Obviously, the Flash movie is Flashpoint, so it is a reboot for the universe. We didn't know exactly how that was going to look. For a little bit, it looked like we were going to do Batman, Ben Affleck, Batman, Michael Keaton, with another Batman, maybe Batgirl. And now, I don't know if that's going to still be in there. Who knows? We will see. I'm intrigued by it. It's supposed to be a really good movie. Andy Muschietti is supposed to have put together a phenomenal film, but it's got some baggage. It has some baggage, and we're just going to have to wait and see on that one. I am trepidatiously intrigued on that one. That sounds good. So that brings us to Aquaman 2. And I like the Aquaman movie. I probably like it more than most people because I just love a good adventure movie, and I really enjoyed that aspect of the film. As an Aquaman movie, it was all right. The movie itself, it was all right. Hey, but it did a better adventure movie than an Uncharted movie did. So it's got brownie points for me there. That's kind of where it ends. I do like the concepts that James Wan brought to it. I like the whole kingdoms, the very Game of Thrones kingdom kind of concept. of these 7 different kingdoms underwater, not including Atlantis, or including Atlantis, I believe. But I just don't. I don't know where my excitement level is for Aquaman 2, and I really won't know, I guess, until it comes out. It's nothing I'm ecstatic for. It's nothing I'm really all that worried for, because I'm sure it'll be good, but like good, great, pretty good. Where are we going to be at? And that's what we'll have to gauge as we get more news, as trailers come out, and as the film itself comes out. But the weird and interesting news there was that James Gunn left Aquaman 3 on the table and was like, I believe he said Jason has always thought of it as a trilogy, and it would be fun to finish the trilogy. It would be. Who's asking for it? Obviously, the first one made $1 billion, maybe $1.2 billion, if I remember correctly off the top of my head, dollars in the box office. So Aquaman 2 was for sure. I don't know if Aquaman 2 is going to make that same kind of money. And if it does, Aquaman 3 is probably in the works. But then it begs the question, is that another Elseworlds? Is the Snyderverse Elseworlds? Is the Snyderverse in the Peacemaker-verse? Because obviously those kind of work together in a way because of the end of season 1 of Peacemaker. It just adds more questions. So I hope Aquaman 3 is not made, because that's just going to piss off a lot of people, because it's confusing. It doesn't make sense what, I guess, this soft reboot would be, including Elseworlds, and it would really aggravate some Snyder fans if Aquaman 3 is made, I'm presuming. But we're going to get into that a little bit more with the Waller show. So, okay, let's keep running. Shazam 2 is the next film that he is going to continue releasing. Or not just he, it's not just James Gunn, it's James Gunn and Peter Safran, of course, under the direction of David Zaslav. But it's mostly them two. It's essentially the two of them. And I really like the first Shazam movie. The second Shazam movie trailer doesn't grab me. I don't really, I'm not a fan of the trailers. It seems fun. It seems like a lot of fun. I like the cast a lot. I love David F. Sandberg, the director, I believe, I think it's David F. Sandberg. I'm pretty positive. I just am not, the trailers don't grab me. But I really, really like the first one. This is my favorite DC movie, besides, I guess, maybe Joker. But if you're talking about DC EU, I guess, it's my favorite out of all of them so far. I'm not the biggest fan of all the Snyder stuff. I like Zack Snyder's Justice League, so don't get crazy at me there. I don't like the Suicide Squad stuff, either version. DC has been far and few between with me on good films, good projects. But Shazam was a good project, so I'm really hoping a lot for Shazam 2. I like Zachary Levi. I like the whole cast and crew they have, so please. But that is all that they're continuing from the previous heads, the uppers, the executives of DC and Warner Brothers. That's going to be their legacy, these last 4 movies, or maybe 5 if you're talking about Aquaman 3 and the possibility of that. But let's get into that meat like we're talking about. James Gunn and Peter Safran have announced a brand new slate. Obviously, we're starting off that slate with these 4 films, possibly 5, that have to be released still. That they're already made, they just have to be released. All made, I guess, besides Batman 2. And I guess the only other one that is Elseworlds that is still being made would be Joker, Folie à Deux, which is the sequel to Joker. And it's going to be starring Harley Quinn, but played by Lady Gaga this time. So that's interesting. I like the Elseworlds aspect of that, and I hope that it does well. It definitely intrigues me, and it does confuse people a little bit, especially if it is an overarching multiverse, but they probably got a decade before they get there. Probably not with the way James Gunn rolls, but they've got at least 5 years, right? So let's jump in. We're starting off with the new slate. We're starting the new slate off with Creature Commandos. And this is where I'm not the most versed in comics. I know a good chunk. I really do. But I haven't read that many in the past few years, past 6, 7, 8 years probably. So I'm not super familiar with everything, but I try to familiarize myself with these things. So Creature Commandos, I don't know that much about. But it is the first entry into the new slate, Gods and Monsters for DC. And I like the idea of Gods and Monsters. It's kind of where Snyder started, but we'll get to that in a minute. Now, Creature Commandos, I think, could be really fun because it's an animated film. It's an animated TV series, and it does correlate with the actual live-action DC as well. So it could be really interesting. It's kind of like What If for Marvel, but they're doing it with multiple things. So that could be fun. It could be really good. So I've got optimism for that one. I'm hesitant because I don't love James Gunn's most recent writing. We're about to jump into that. So Waller's gonna. I'm gonna probably go off on a tangent in a second here. But Creature Commandos sounds cool. Seems cool. Seems intriguing. I am going into that one with an open, blank mind, blank slate, and keeping my fingers crossed and hoping for the best there. Because I would really like DC to bring some competition for Marvel. Because Phase 4 of Marvel was for the most part, but mostly And yeah, I don't think that's all the people at Disney and all the people at Marvel are just running out of ideas. That's not the case. Look at how many comics they had to draw from. They're running out of competition. There's nobody that can even compete with them or even come close to competing with them. So why try, right? So it kind of just makes them lackadaisical in a way, whether they subconsciously realize it or not. They're doing it through their own subconscious. Kevin Feige realized that with everybody complaining online over the last couple of years. So hopefully the quality will boost up. And I think it started to, at least, with what we've been getting as of late. Marvel-wise, I loved Werewolf by Night, and what's come out since Werewolf by Night? I feel like a couple of things. Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special I wasn't the biggest fan of, but there are a couple of things. I feel like he is kind of changing tune from Phase 4 to Phase 5, which is good. So I hope DC really lands it well and brings that competition to the market of superhero films, superhero TV, and all these different things. Because it obviously is the biggest part of the box office at the moment and the biggest part of TV, because The Boys actually beat anything superhero this year with this past year in 2022 with just one show. So bring that out quicker to us, please. And it shows that there is room for competition. It shows that Marvel does not hold that crown tight on its head. It's on its head, but it's not glued. It's not glued there. It can be taken off. So hopefully DC will really bring that competition and really revitalize the market a little bit, because it'd be nice. We don't want Marvel Phase 4 again. We want new Marvel to be good. And we want this DC universe to be good. Whether we like all of everything that was announced or not, I've got hope for it all. But the trepidation comes in right here, because right after Creature Commandos, not exactly right after, but in the future after, I believe it's 2025 is when these things are coming out. Maybe these animated shows are coming out in 2024. But the first two things we're getting, of course, are Creature Commando and then Waller. And Waller is a continuation of Peacemaker. And I believe this one's animated. And Viola Davis is going to be voicing Waller, Amanda Waller, which is a fantastic character. And I love Viola Davis, The Woman King, one of the most underrated films of the past year. And this is it. I don't have any excitement for this. Where I was frustrated with the Batman, don't get me started on Peacemaker. Because I really do like James Gunn. I like everything James Gunn has done up until the Suicide Squad. Really, I didn't like the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3. Christmas special. That's what I'm looking for. I didn't like the Christmas special, and I really didn't like Peacemaker, and I really didn't like Suicide Squad. I didn't like Suicide Squad. I just wasn't the biggest fan of it. It was okay. I didn't like a couple sequences of it, that's for sure. But Peacemaker really, I watched the whole thing, and it was like I watched it every week, but it was one of those things I sat down and was just, all right, it's on. And yes, it got me to chuckle. It made me laugh a couple of times. But every single character on there is written the exact same way with just a slightly different quirk here or a slightly different quirk there. They're all the same person. There is a literal, I think it was 4 minutes, 4 minutes of John Cena jumping off a roof onto a different level, onto a different level, onto a different level, kind of scaling down, jumping off of an apartment building. I think it was only 2 or 3 floors, and then he took a big jump. But that took 4 minutes to go through. And it wasn't a one shot. It wasn't some cool sequence. It was boring. And the rest of the series was kind of written kind of similar to that. I'll get harsh on that pretty quickly. One of the reasons I am harsh on stuff like that is because James Gunn is an excellent writer, has a brilliant mind. I mean, Scooby-Doo live action back in the day. That guy's got my heart I grew up on that, like Shaggy. The Shaggy was my heart and soul growing up. I love me some Scooby-Doo, especially the live action stuff. But just over time, Slither, Super, all these things were great. Guardians 1, 2, awesome. I really like Guardians 2, especially the end. It's when some Cat Stevens playing. Oh, it makes me tear up every single time. But I'm worried for Guardians of 3, and I'm really worried for Waller. I don't know why he chose to do a soft reboot and literally just keep his stuff. People were worried about that, and rightfully so, because he did it. He's soft rebooting, and he's just keeping his stuff. Suicide Squad and Peacemaker team. But then that begs the question. In both Suicide Squad and Peacemaker, Viola Davis's character has been kind of all over the place. She's been in Black Adam movie. So is Black Adam part of this new DCU in some sort of fashion, some sort of way? Is all of the rest of the old Justice League that was at the end of Peacemaker Season 1, are they there? There are questions. There are many questions, and of course they will be answered because he's got to answer them over time. But why do that to people that like Snyder stuff? I'm not the biggest Snyder person. I'll be the first person to tell you. It's. I'll get into the reasons why I don't like it a whole nother day, but why do that to people? They spent so long trying to get Zack Snyder's Justice League remade in a way. Just that the amount of effort, the Herculean effort it took to bring that into fruition, that could be those people. If it was a fresh slate, I feel like there might be some hesitation and trepidation from those people, but that fresh slate is, all right, well, you know what? This is all new. Let's go into it. Now you've given that entire Herculean movement, that Herculean effort, whether it was mostly bots or not, because bots are difficult, especially in today's world, just to defend off. So that studio is going to have to defend bots and the whole Herculean movement behind Snyder stuff. Because it's not clear. Why soft reboot just your own things and then create Elseworlds with Joker, Folia Do, and Joker itself, and Batman? But Snyderverse isn't there? You can't finish those last 2 movies? I'm not really clamoring for those last 2 movies or anything, but it just doesn't feel... It doesn't sit super well, if that makes sense. All right, so that's it there. I'll stop my tangent there, and let's jump on to Superman Legacy. So this one I'm cautiously optimistic for. I am optimistic because it's a new Superman. Henry Cavill is my Superman. I love Superman. But I do not like Man of Steel. I don't like Batman versus Superman. The only movie I've seen that I like him as Superman in was probably Zack Snyder's Justice League. Just because I don't think Snyder wrote Superman. He didn't write Clark Kent. He wrote a hollowed, depressed person that sees themselves as a god, that doesn't see themselves as a god, but kind of. That's why the gods and monsters stuff, I'm like, all right, well, rehash it a little bit. Okay, it's proven to a degree, I guess. Let's go for it. But that's where I don't necessarily like that it's called Gods and Monsters, and the first thing we're going with is Superman Legacy. They're going to treat him like a god, right? and the villain is going to be treated like a monster. And then maybe we'll find some good monsters in the next couple movies or anything like that, but they're going to treat him like a god. And that is what I did not like about the 2 Superman movies directed by Snyder. Was they're written, it wasn't Clark Kent. Clark Kent is a person that is struggling with all of these things. He's very godlike, sure. But Clark Kent is a person first and foremost. He's not a god entity. He came from another planet where he didn't have godlike powers, you know? That mindset isn't like ingrained in him. That's not who that character is. He's not like, all right, I was raised in the United States, and none of these people have anything on me. And nobody in the world has anything on me. Look at my power level. Look at my power structures. Sounds like a Dragon Ball thing, you know? Like, no, that's not the character. So I have hope because James Gunn is he can be, I guess, what's the word I'm looking for? He can be a little dry. He can be a little raunchy at times, but he's optimistic for the most part. So I hope that Superman Legacy will bring that optimism, that Boy Scoutism back to Clark Kent, the character. Superman, sure, that can be your god, and that can be the way that people look up to him. But that's the big, I guess the quintessential thing for me there would be whenever he's interacting with humans, with people on the planet, he should have heart. He should have soul. And Henry Cavill can do that with looks and stuff, and he did really well. But the writing and the set design and everything around those scenes, whenever Superman is interacting with your average Joe, like puts him on a pedestal. Where Clark Kent, the human being, or the Kryptonian being that lives among human beings, brings himself down to the level of people. He talks to them like normal people, and he brings and instills and reinvigorates hope and life and joy and cheer and all these different things in people. And yeah, he can scare the hell out of them, but that's not ever his intent. And I think that's where Snyder kind of screwed up there. So I really hope Superman Legacy is going to be good, but once again, I haven't loved everything that James Gunn has been doing as of recent. So I'm cautiously optimistic for it. I'm optimistic that it's not a dark, broody, not really Clark Kent Superman, but I am optimistic that it's going to be a little more fun, a little more vibrant. It's going to be your Boy Scout Superman that actually has that soul that you want from that character. It's just I got some trepidation too, and that comes from Mr. Gunn himself. But we'll see. We'll see. I'm going into it with an open mind, open heart, and fingers crossed, right? So, next up on that DC slate is actually the thing that I am probably the most excited for. It's got to be Batman: The Brave and the Bold or this one. Those are my 2 top ones. And it's the Lanterns TV show. They're making a TV show on it's supposedly HBO Max level quality or HBO level quality, so it ought to be a Game of Thrones type, Westworld type, something, The Wire, all these different shows, Sex and the City, something with good budget, something with good team behind it, and something that is going to make us think, bring cool concepts to us, and he's just an interesting entity to watch, and it's going to be done in a True Detective style. And Earth is going to be the precinct, obviously. These Lanterns are space detectives, essentially, which I love. The Lanterns are one of the most interesting parts of all of DC. That was always my favorite thing growing up was Batman stuff and Lantern stuff. I really like Blue Beetle. I like some Green Arrow and stuff like that. But Batman, Green Lanterns are kind of my bread and butter when it comes to DC. And I really was sad that the Lantern aspect of Snyder stuff never came to fruition because I feel like that could have grounded things a lot better in that kind of cosmic sense, but also still grounding it in an Earth-like sense. That never came to fruition. So we get Lanterns with James Gunn and Peter Safran, and I think it's going to be good. I am not positive if James Gunn is writing this one because I know he's writing Superman Legacy, Waller, and Creature Commandos, but I'm not positive on Lantern. One way or another, I am excited for Lanterns. There's just so much to draw from in those comics, and I trust all the teams behind these things enough to be purely optimistic on this one. I got some trepidation on all these other ones. Cautiously optimistic. Don't really know much about Creature Commando, so intrigued by that one. Cautiously optimistic for Superman. Trepidatiously cautious for, that's kind of an oxymoron. Just cautious in general for Waller, but Lanterns I'm strictly and purely optimistic on. I'm excited for it. I like the whole Green Lantern, Yellow Lantern. Yeah, come on, bring us some goodness. That one I'm excited for. It could really do a lot to push the DC forward, DCU, and I really got high hopes for that one. That's the one that I probably have the highest hopes for. Maybe that or Batman. But anyway, let's keep going. Then we have the Authority. I know nothing about the Authority. I once again, I'm not the most versed comic guy. I try to be more versed than probably your average Joe, but I need to read more comics, honestly. There's just so many things to read, so many things to watch. I get caught up in life. But the Authority, the way that I have seen it, sounds like almost like The Boys for DC, but probably like a TV 14 version of The Boys instead of like TV mature version of The Boys. Am I right? Am I wrong? Tell me below. Let me know. But it sounds pretty damn cool just from that. Just from that little data point we went over, and the fact that The Boys was the most watched superhero thing in the past year, even more so than Marvel's behemoth of everything. Hey, there's room for that kind of superhero thing, and I think that will help boost competition because that puts them in direct competition with not just Marvel, but Amazon Prime and Amazon itself with The Boys. So that's interesting. I'm intrigued, very much so, and I am definitely optimistic towards that one because it just sounds cool. But who knows? I don't know enough to be trepidatious or cautious there. I'm just kind of happy-go-lucky optimist there. So next up is Paradise Lost. And this is the Game of Thrones style show that they've said. Because they literally said this was going to be Game of Thrones stylistic, I guess. But it's going to be based on Themyscira, where Wonder Woman and the Amazons are from. And that could be really, really cool, or it could be just a big old miss. I'm hoping it's a hit. Because Wonder Woman, the first one was amazing. Wonder Woman 2 was one of the worst comic book films that have ever been put to film. It was just, God, I wish it was better. Obviously, Wonder Woman 3 is not really coming, so this is where we're going to be introduced to the Amazons and how they're going to fit into this new DCU that we're in the world around it that we're going to be introduced to. I hope this one's good. Worried a little bit on this one, just because I believe it was on the John Campea show, Robert Meyer Burnett was talking about how, okay, we've got literally all the same type of person here. So we're going to need every shade of the rainbow under this thing. Like literally this show could be so boring because they're all the same caricature type of character doing the very same things for very similar goals. That's boring as hell. But if everybody's a little different, everybody's kind of got their own quirks, everybody has something going on that maybe isn't necessarily part of Paradise Lost on this island of Themyscira. Who knows? There are many different ways that they can make it great, but there are just as many ways as it could be bad. It depends who they hire. I don't know if James Gunn is writing this one. If James Gunn is writing this one, I'm cautious. I'm trepidatious. If he's not, optimism. I'm optimistic for it. But that it could be a hit or a miss. Sounds cool though. It does sound cool. They got some certain factors that they gotta really play with, and hopefully they play with them well. Fingers crossed once again. But last and definitely not least, on the new DCU slate that James Gunn has announced that him and Peter Safran are bringing forth under the direction of good old David Zaslav and his axe. We've got Batman, Brave and the Bold, which once again was my favorite Batman TV show growing up. Probably still my favorite Batman TV show. Love Batman Beyond. But Batman the Brave and the Bold is so good. That's where you get some Blue Beetle, you get some Etrigan the Demon, you get some Oliver Queen, Green Arrow. Just Batman the Brave and the Bold is just so good. I love the TV show, and I really hope this does well with the film, because I know it's going to include Damian Wayne, so we're going to start out with a Bat family. That essentially means that Nightwing is there for sure. Batgirl, maybe Oracle could both be in here. We could have maybe Red Hood, or maybe Red Hood will come back at a certain point. Red Hood could be a villain for this, which would be interesting. Maybe. We'll see. But I like the idea of bringing Damian Wayne in here. His son that I think reached 8, 10, 12 years old, something along those lines, without ever meeting Bruce. And then Bruce meets him and is like, all right, well, you can be my Robin, but I'm going to have to get to know you, obviously, and kind of test and gauge anything and everything you do while being put in all these extremely dangerous situations. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if James Gunn said he was writing this one. I don't think he is. If he was, once again, I might be a little bit cautious. But just Batman the Brave and the Bold has so much good source material, both from the comics and from that TV show, especially that TV show, and especially the comics. But there's just so much good source material to draw upon, which they've screwed up before. But like Lanterns, I'm going to say there's a good enough team behind this. And I think they're all excited enough about this. I think they're all eager and willing and pumped to do these new things. So I'm just purely optimistic. There could be some caution that bakes itself in over time as we near the project itself. But at the moment, pure optimism. It sounds good. It sounds fun. It sounds intriguing. I like the idea of it. I really, really, really like the idea of it. And I hope it's excellent. I really hope it's excellent. I hope all these things leading up to it are excellent as well. I hope Waller is actually really good and it explains everything to me the way I want it explained. And you know what? It ties everything up in a bow that my mind is like, oh, I like that. All right. Don't necessarily expect that, but that would be nice. And I think they have a coordinated and competent enough crew that the possibility's there. But that we will see. We will see. So I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued. Really, that's kind of all that I have for you today. If you want to come talk movies with me at all, you know, you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all at Harrison McGrade. You know, just my name. And come say howdy. But if you want to come say hello again while we're doing a stream, and we'll be doing streams again Tuesday, Thursday. And come say howdy on Tuesdays, Thursdays. I usually shoot for somewhere around noon to 1 Pacific Standard Time, kind of around that realm. And yeah, we'll talk this weekend, going into this weekend. On Tuesday, we'll talk about how that box office went for the past weekend. On Thursday, we'll talk about, and I'll go tell you how all the movies I saw this past weekend are. And then Thursday, we'll kind of gauge, okay, so last weekend looked like this. What's this weekend box office-wise going to look like? What are people's excitement levels at? What films are coming out this weekend? Etc., etc. You know the deal. And if you want to come back for some movie-loving goodness, like, subscribe, hit that notification bell, do all those things. You know, the like algorithm, we could use a little help there. Some subscriptions would be wonderful. Help us out. We'll help you out by giving you the best movie news you can find. Maybe not the best, but, you know, we're working there. We got time. We'll find our way. We're getting better and better each week. So come say howdy each and every week, and we will be here for you. I am looking forward to the DC slate. Definitely have some trepidation there, but mostly cautious optimism. So fingers crossed, both sides. Good luck, James Gunn. Good luck, Peter Safran. And come back tomorrow on Sunday for the afterthoughts for The Last of Us episode 4. And we will also be doing Sidetrek tomorrow morning, and we're going to be talking about. So go to @Sidetrek on YouTube. It's a whole different channel. That's our big cousin over there, you might say, and big British cousin, you might say. And I stream with them on Sundays, and on Sundays we usually talk about something sci-fi. Tomorrow we're talking about the top 5 best sci-fi films ever, in our opinion, of course. And then at the end of the stream, we'll kind of cover all of that and decide what are the channels' kind of thoughts together for the top 5. So, Sidetrack tomorrow. Oh, you know what I didn't do? Got my little background light off. What am I doing? I like my background light. It's like a little sun going back there. But Sidetrack tomorrow. Go to Sidetrack. Come back to MCubed afterwards, because Afterthoughts will be airing after The Last of Us airs tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We'll hopefully shoot for about 7, 8 for the Afterthoughts episode. And I'm looking forward to seeing you. Come back for more movie love and goodness on MCubed.